Good evening. Welcome to the Ottawa Catholic School Board of Trustees meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, and ask Jaden to read the land acknowledgement.
As we begin this meeting, let us respectfully acknowledge that the Ottawa Catholic School Board is located on traditional Algonquin Anishinaabeg territory. We acknowledge the Algonquin people's long-standing relationship with this land, which remains unceded. We also pay respect to all Indigenous people, including the Métis, the Inuit, and from all regions from Canada that call Ottawa home.
Thank you. Father, can you lead us in prayer?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Gracious and loving God, as we gather today, we stand on the threshold of Holy Week. We pause to quiet our minds and prepare our hearts for the solemn journey of Christ's passion, death, and glorious resurrection. Lord, as we anticipate these holiest of days, remind us of the ultimate example of servant leadership shown by your Son. Help us, as trustees of the Ottawa Catholic School Board, to embody that same humility, compassion, and dedication in our service to our school communities. Bless our deliberations today. May the decisions we make be guided by your Holy Spirit. Ensure that our students, educators, and staff are nurtured in faith, hope, and love. As we prepare to walk with Jesus to the cross, grant us the courage to carry our responsibilities with grace and to always keep the spiritual and academic well-being of our students at the very center of our work. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. We remember today in our prayers the following persons who have passed away. Joanne Muto, Department Head of Student Services at St. Paul High School. Clint Eddy, brother-in-law of Rhonda Eddy, principal at St. Benedict School. Peter Clark, the school crossing guard who was killed in a hit-and-run collision in Barrhaven on Monday. Our condolences go out to his family, his friends, his colleagues at Ottawa Safety Council, and the families he knew and protected every day. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please stand for O Canada. We have three of our trustees joining us virtually this evening. Vice Chair Cindy Simpson, Trustee Spencer Warren, and Trustee Jeremy Whitted. Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. We have one delegation. I'd like to ask Kelly McGibbon and her family to come forward. Read gratitude for St. Carlo Virtual School.
Hello. think I have a presentation. Hello, thank you so much for having me here and my family today. Hillary is under 18, so she won't be reading. I will read her on her behalf. Hello, my name is Kelly McKibben, and I am the mother of grade 7 St. Carlo Virtual School student Hillary McKibben, who is with me today with her father and older sister, Alyssa. We are here to formally show our appreciation for St. Carlo Virtual as it prepares to change from a standalone school to a school program next year. We're deeply grateful to the board for this innovative and accessible education option for children in Ottawa like our daughter. Because there is no bigger fan of virtual school than Hillary McKibben. How do I advance the slides here? There. Hillary left St. Leonard in junior kindergarten after being diagnosed with aplastic anemia, a rare bone marrow failure disorder affecting 1 in a million. She has since developed an even more rare overlapping syndrome, PNH, and is the first and only child at CHIO to have this condition. Hillary is at high risk of developing viral, fungal, and bacterial infections, such as meningitis, with serious outcomes, including a possible bone marrow transplant. As you can see, our circumstances are quite unique. But our story is one of many untold stories of families being accommodated in virtual school. During Hillary's 2-year treatment at home, the COVID pandemic would emerge and OCSB schools would close for the first time in history. Re-entering the classroom while immunocompromised posed an extreme risk. Instead, due to virtual accommodations, Hillary thrived at home and her treatment was successful. We wish to make it clear that Hillary's story of survival includes the accommodation that St. Carlo Virtual provided. In fact, she and I agree that having daily access to the richness of a school community from home, very often sick in bed, is the single most important factor that has contributed to her wellness. She's an extremely healthy patient as a result, and I am personally forever indebted to the OCSB for creating and continuing with this learning option, despite the small population it currently serves. This must be why the OCSB was recently named a top school board in all of Canada. Hillary would like to share her appreciation also and has written a letter to the Board of Trustees, which I will read now. Dear OCSB Board of Trustees, thank you for running a virtual school program for students in Ottawa. My friends and I are very glad the programming is continuing for another school year. Virtual school allows me to have sick days and still keep up with my studies. I have severe headaches and I can't imagine how hard it would be to go through that in a classroom. I think it would be hard on my teachers too, and I would miss many days. I started school 6 years ago in the hospital where I was inspired by how people learn differently. I'll show that there. Being in virtual school keeps me healthy and out of CHIO. Having access to virtual learning has kept me safe and infection-free during the whole year I was misdiagnosed and feeling very sick at home. I did not have to give up singing O Canada every morning, saying the Lord's Prayer with my classmates. I belong to clubs, I make new friends every year, I attend liturgies, assemblies, spirit weeks, and school parties. I get to do all the same fun stuff the other kids do. And instead of getting an IEP for my headaches, I made the honor roll this year, my dream come true. Je parle aussi français grâce à St. Carlo. Je n'ai pas eu à renoncer à des opportunités simplement parce que je suis différente. Je veux être bilingue, aller à l'université et travailler un jour pour la OCSB comme ma mère. I know many students and families who have attended St. Carlo over the years. The 4 friends I met in virtual school 6 years ago remain my very best friends today. They have all moved on to other OCSB schools, but our friendship remains strong. We talk every single day, and I know we will be best friends for life. We bonded in virtual school. I understand that virtual learning is a privilege. I feel like the luckiest person ever to have this option. Thank you to the OCSB for accommodating me and my friends so we can stay part of the community. I really hope that St. Carlo Virtual gets to keep its name. It's something to be very proud of. I know I am. Thank you very much, Hillary and the McKibben family.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Is there any questions for clarification that any of the trustees has?
My pleasure. Thank you so much to the board. And on behalf of my family, Hillary would like to speak for herself, but someday she will. And very nice to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we'll go back to the original agenda where I skipped over Father Gerard's presentation. So we'll go with faith and focus with Father Gerard now, please.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone. This month's spiritual theme of building bridges of mercy and reconciliation is woven into our shared Lenten journey. Slide 2. Building bridges. This holy season of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving interrupts our culture of speed and consumption. It calls us to slow down, to notice where our habits, both personal and collective, result in harm to ourselves, to others, or even to nature. Whether it's a community gathering on Ash Wednesday, next slide, please. There we go. Whether it's a community gathering on Ash Wednesday or a field trip to a local food bank, we are reminded that small, intentional practices of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving reshape us from within. By praying and serving alongside others, our students learn that faith is meant to be lived in community. In these moments, they begin to build bridges of mercy, walking side by side with those in need, listening to their stories, and recognizing the dignity we share. Next slide, please. To reveal God's heart of mercy for humanity, Jesus told this story. A shepherd had 100 sheep. One day he noticed that one sheep was missing. 99 were safe in the fold, but one had wandered away. Some days it feels like there are 100 sheep within us. We get stressed and our joy wanders off. We get upset with someone and our peace wanders off. We get treated unfairly and our confidence wanders off. Sometimes we don't even realize that a part of us is missing, but the shepherd always notices. This past month, students from St. Pius gathered with the chaplaincy leader in the spirit of the Good Shepherd to build bridges of reconciliation with themselves, God, and one another. At St. Peter, students gathered in prayer over lunch hour to lift up the needs of their community. Standing side by side, they entrusted their needs to the mercy and the providence of God. Next slide, please. From our high schools to our elementary schools like St. Kateri and St. Gabriel, the three pillars of Lent, fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, work together to create a well-rounded and transformative Lenten experience. Each pillar serves as a way to repair and rebuild our relationships, deepen our faith, and prepare our hearts for the Easter season. Mercy and reconciliation are God's way of being with us, dwelling among us and calling us back to Him. For this reason, mercy and forgiveness are not optional virtues, but lie at the very heart of the Christian life. Pope Leo reminds us that the acts of mercy are the most secure and profitable bank in which we can entrust the treasure of our lives. When we give our time, presence, empathy, and care to those most in need, we invest in something far greater than ourselves. Building bridges of mercy and reconciliation is our way of walking together in love, healing what is broken, and bringing hope to our world. Next slide, please. As we move into April and the Easter season, our attention turns to building bridges across cultures, communities, and creation. The joy of Easter reminds us that new life is possible in us, around us, and between us. As we celebrate the resurrection of Christ, we are invited to reach out and build bridges of peace, friendship, and collaboration across communities, culture, and even with creation itself. This Easter, we pray for the courage and compassion to build bridges of peace and friendship. May the resurrection of Christ inspire us to work for unity, celebrate our gifts, and care for the earth with love, so that we may truly build up the kingdom of God. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father. Can I have a mover for the approval of the agenda, please? Trustee Ward? And Trustee Woodard. That the agenda for the regular board meeting of March 24, 2026 be approved as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item E, student school departmental profile. Item 1, memo from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement, read Black History Month 2026. Welcome, Superintendent O'Hara. Welcome. Dr. O'Hara, can you introduce your guests, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is my pleasure to introduce the presenters tonight. Dr. Nastaran Karimi, the OCSB Equity Officer, will present an overview of the initiatives that took place during the Black History Month. We are also joined by 2 students, Khadija Matari, St. Joseph High School, and Eliora Omoike, St. Benedicta Elementary School, who were selected as winners of this year's Black History Month short story contest, and will be sharing their original work, after which they will take questions.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Nastaran Karimi, and I'm the Equity Officer at the board. Today, I'll be talking about Black History Month activities and initiatives within our schools. I will make this presentation as precise as I can, as we have 2 special guests joining us today. Okay. This year's Black History Month theme was honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries. This theme centers continuity in the sense that it recognizes the contributions of Black Canadians whose labor, leadership, and creativity help build communities, institutions, and movements, often in the face of exclusion and injustice, while affirming the brilliance of today's Black youth who are already shaping conversations and imagining new beginnings. At the board level, we offered various suggestions in terms of how schools can bring this theme to life. On the screen, you can see a list of some of the activities and initiatives that schools implemented for Black History Month. I will discuss some of these themes in the following slides by panel. Picture 1 on the upper left-hand side, as you can see, is a cultural food festival held within one of our schools, where students had the opportunity to share their cultural food with the rest of their school peers. The picture next to that is a fashion show where students are wearing their country's traditional attire and showing the design and patterns and sharing the story behind them. Picture 3 on the bottom left-hand side is students learning from WISE Atangana, where grade 5 students learned some drumming while grade 6 students did slam poetry in French. After this, they had the opportunity to perform what they had learned to the entire school. In the picture right next to that, you see students learning math with a kente cloth, which is a hand-woven textile originating from Ghana. Students explored patterns, identifying colors, shapes, design elements used to create them. We also had many guest speakers coming to our schools, talk about their experiences or just give a speech. You can see our very own Dr. Prince Ahoro talking about his story and his experiences. We also had Aubrey Norona come and speak to our schools. And on the upper right-hand side, you can see mask artist Julian Lover-Tu performing an Afro-Caribbean dance. I also want to share grade 1 student from grade 1 student from Corpus Christi, share her dream with you. She wrote, "I have a dream that everybody in the world will be included in love. It would not matter what your skin color was, you would still get love and kindness." So powerful words. Next, I want to cover some of the activities that happened in our high schools. Pictures 1 and 2, the upper pictures, are Black History Month assemblies that were coordinated by BSA, Black Student Association students for their peers. Entirely student-led from conception and design to hosting the event and showcasing diverse and powerful performances such as Afro-Caribbean dance, fashion show, and featuring notable Black athletes, artists, and politicians. A refreshing part of the event was highlighting their own school's athletes and what Black brilliance meant to them. The picture that you can see on the bottom left-hand side is a school-wide freedom quilt, which was created with the theme, "Be proud of who you are, your culture, your history," where students shared what they were proud of in their culture and history. In the picture right next to that, we see one of our schools, Immaculata High School, which was featured in Education News Canada, where a teacher invited Julian McKenzie, staff writer for The Athletic and author of Black Aces, to his grade 10 Civics and Career Studies class, and their conversations turned into powerful explorations of history and identity. Last but not least is a school-wide event held inspired by the Emmett Till movie, where students researched and created posters about the Emmett Till case with the goal of moving towards justice in our current society. Some of the initiatives that we held at a board level. So we had the Read Aloud with Lady Nadej Altador. Lady Nadej Altador is a teacher at St. Emily's and an author, a local Ottawa author. She did 2 read-alouds for K-3 classes of her book, First Day, through which students had the opportunity to ask her questions about herself, but also about her journey in becoming an author. In collaboration with the Art Ed department and MASC, we had several Black artists invited into our schools to perform dramatic and musical performances and conduct dance workshops. Also, as part of OCSB's Black History Month, elementary and high school students were invited to write a short story that reflected how Black brilliance connects generations within our school communities, which we now have 2 of the winners from high school and elementary school here, winners of the short story contest, which will be reading their stories with us. Thank you for listening.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Hi, my name is Khadija Matari, and I'm really honored to be here today as one of the winners of the short story, Black History Month short story contest. Writing this story meant a lot to me because it showed that Black people were ignored and exploited for such a long time. Though there have been many achievements, they have not yet reached their full equality. I also want to give a special thanks to Ms. Elvie for encouraging me to participate in the contest and supporting me along the way. My story is named Finally Visible. She entered the school, her curls bouncing as she walked down the hallway, a little too fast, a little too self-conscious. She wasn't used to being so different. Her steps echoed as she walked into the classroom, her heart racing. The conversations changed, a few heads turned, and a few eyes lingered seconds too long. She sat in the back by the window and kept her gaze low, feeling others' eyes on her. She drummed lightly on the desk, tracing invisible lines, trying to blend in, trying not to bring herself any attention. Every morning she passed the hallway with the gold-lettered words above the office: faith, strength, unity. Underneath them, a mural stretched across the wall. Framed faces of past students, graduates, and school leaders glimmered under the soft light. She studied each frame carefully, The paint was cracking in some places. Some names looked dull while others shone. She was hoping to find someone who looked like her, someone whose Black identity and achievements were celebrated. She didn't. Later that week, on a quiet afternoon, she stood longer than usual. The smiling faces stared back at her. The halls were empty. The only sounds were faint echoes of footsteps and closing lockers. The custodian silently polished the glass over the mural beside her. "You look at it like you're trying to solve something," he said softly. "I was just looking," she said, brushing a curl behind her ear. He nodded slowly. "Black people aren't even shown on the mural," he paused. "It's kind of messed up." She tilted her head, letting the words linger in the quiet hallway. So many smiles, so many faces, yet no one looked like her. The custodian had left to clean another area of the school. She let her fingers brush the gold letters, tracing the curves of each word. Faith, strength, unity. She thought about those words. Somewhere in them she felt possibility. Maybe one day students like her would see themselves here. By next week, she quietly gathered a few other students who had noticed the absence on the wall. They met after school in the library, whispering ideas and sketching possibilities on paper. Names, faces, achievements, ways to honor past and current students. "We could start small," she said. "Add some past students, highlight the current students, show everyone we belong. We could add athletes from the sports club," one student suggested. "What about some from the STEM club?" another said. The others nodded excitedly, writing down names, passing papers, and debating who should be added first. She felt that sense of accomplishment, the courage. She felt like she had a chance to finally fit in. Over the next month, their group met regularly. They collected names of past students, took photos, and reached out to teachers. She spoke up in meetings, proposed ideas, and encouraged others to contribute. Every suggestion she made, every plan she organized, every person who joined added to her confidence. She began to walk taller with a smile on her face. Her classmates didn't look at her differently anymore, and she didn't feel invisible anymore. Finally, the day came. The principal stood proudly, removing the white cloth over the updated mural. The hallway was crowded with students, teachers, and staff. New faces shone in the frames. Young students' fingers smudged the newly polished glass, and chatter filled the hallway. Past students she had researched, current students who made a difference. Names were displayed where there was once empty space. She stood in the corner, realizing that her own face was added to the mural, watching students gather around it, and she felt pride. The custodian polished the floor nearby, a smile on his face. She met his eyes, and he seemed proud. She didn't feel like the new student anymore. She felt seen. She felt like she belonged, like she was finally visible.
Hi, my name's Eliora, and I wrote a fictional story about a girl of Jamaican heritage who thought her name didn't fit in with other people's names. And I'd like to give a huge thank you to my family and friends for supporting me through the way, and to Madam Chola, who showed people of color at St. Benedict Elementary School really mattered through the month of February. Okay. The space between my name. There is always a space before someone says my name. Not a big space, just a small one. A breath, a hesitation. "Haya?" teachers say on the first day of school. "It's Hyacinth," I answered. They nod and smile, but I can feel it. That tiny space where my name doesn't quite fit. I used to wish I had a name that didn't make people stop, until my grandmother told me why it matters. Grandma's hands are strong, the kind of hands that look like they've carried things: groceries, babies, suitcases, history. One evening, I told her about the pause again. "They always stumble," I said. "It makes me feel different." Grandma didn't laugh. She didn't brush it away. She reached across the table and held my hand. "When my mother was your age," she began, "she wasn't even allowed to go to certain schools in her town." I blinked. Why? Because she was Black. The word sat between us. heavy. But she loved learning, Grandma continued. She would borrow books. She would copy lessons by hand. She said education was something no one could lock away. My great-grandmother grew up in Jamaica. She became a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse with cracked windows and wooden desks that reeked of chalk and grilled plantains. She taught children how to read, how to write, how to believe in themselves, even when the world didn't always believe in them. She was brilliant, Grandma said softly, not because she was famous, because she refused to let her mind be small. Years later, Grandma came to Canada with 2 suitcases and a nursing certificate. Some patients refused to let her take care of them. Some coworkers spoke slowly to her, like she couldn't understand. But I stayed, Grandma said. I worked, I studied. I proved I could belong, not because I needed to, but because I knew I did. She squeezed my hand. And now you sit in classrooms they once tried to keep us out of. I'd never thought about it that way. The next week at school, we started a project on Canadian heroes. Most groups chose lacrosse players or explorers. When I flipped through the textbook, I noticed something. Page after page. Almost no one was a person of color. It wasn't loud. It wasn't someone saying I wasn't important. It was quieter than that. It was like we were missing. That small space again. I felt it. Then I heard Grandma's voice in my head. Refused to let her mind be small. I raised my hand. Can I choose someone not in the textbook? I asked. My teacher looked surprised, but she nodded. Of course. That night, I researched Viola Desmond, a black woman in Nova Scotia who refused to leave a whites-only section of a movie theater in 1946. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She simply stayed in her seat. She was arrested for it. Today, her face is on the $10 bill. One decision, one act of quiet courage. Brilliance. Presentation day arrived. My hands shook as I walked to the front of the class. I felt the familiar space waiting, that tiny pause before I spoke. My name is Hyacinth, I began clearly. No shrinking, no rushing. And today, I'm going to talk about Viola Desmond. As I spoke, something shifted inside me. I wasn't just sharing facts, I was sharing a story that should have been told. I talked about dignity, about courage, about how history is bigger than the pages we are given. When I finished, the room was silent, not a confused silence, a listening silence. My teacher spoke carefully. Thank you, Hyacinth. That was powerful. After class, a boy who had never talked to me before said, I didn't know that happened in Canada. I nodded. A lot of people don't, but they will now. That evening, Grandma stood at the stove, humming softly. I told her, that brilliance isn't about being perfect. She smiled without turning around. What is it then? It's about carrying something forward. Grandma turned to face me fully. Yes, she said, that's exactly what it is. I thought about my great-grandmother copying lessons by hand, about Grandma working double shifts, about Viola Desmond sitting still in that theater. They all faced spaces where they were told they didn't fit, and they filled those spaces anyway. Now, when someone pauses before my name, I don't feel smaller. I understand something they don't. The space before my name is not confusing. It is history. It is resilience. It is generations of brilliance arriving in a room. And when I say it's Hyacinth, I am not just correcting pronunciation. I am honoring the woman who made sure I could stand here at all. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's open for questions or any comments.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Very, very interesting stories. Questions or comments from the trustees? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much to you, Mr. Chair. You ladies are so very talented. How you really brought to that community's inclusive, not exclusive. And when we include everybody, we are community. And that would be why your name would be on the board, right, Katja? Because you make community. I can see that your principal's watching tonight too, because you're part of the bigger community. You guys, you fit. Thank you very much.
Trustee Whitted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, ladies, thanks for being here. What a very powerful story. You know, a lot of presentations that come to this board table, as many of my colleagues will acknowledge, they're sometimes a bit dry and it's easy to tune out, but I was captivated by every word of that speech and that presentation. So thank you for opening up and sharing your stories. And we're very proud to have you as students in our board. Continue to be strong ambassadors across the board and supporting students who don't always feel like they belong, but as Trustee Moore said, you very much do fit in, and we're all one united board. So thank you again for being here and opening up to us. Appreciate it.
Is there a question in there somewhere? No?
Oh, sorry, Chair, just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? If I could ask the two students to come forward, actually everybody come forward, and we're going to take some pictures and we have some gifts for you. You can stay for the rest of the board meeting.
I'm afraid that stuff that Jeremy was speaking about is going to happen.
Need a mover and a seconder for the presentation, please. Trustee Whitted and Trustee Moore. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement dated March 11, 2026, titled Black History Month 2026 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item F, declarations of conflict of interest. We have none. Confirmation of the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 24, 2026. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Coburn and Trustee Melito. That the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 24, 2026 be adopted as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. There's no unfinished business from previous meetings. Item I, presentation consideration of committee reports and student trustee reports. Item 1, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs the minutes of the regular session meetings held November 3rd and 21st and December 1st, 2025. Associate Director Shimmons.
Those minutes are for receipt, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mover, please. Trustee Phelan. And seconded by Trustee Warren. That the memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated March 11, 2026, containing the minutes of the regular session meetings of November 3rd, 21st, and December 1st, 2025 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 2, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, SEAC minutes of January 21st, 2026. Superintendent Benton.
These minutes are for receipt, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Moore. Seconder. Trustee Lukatich-Byers. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated March 10th, 2026, entitled SEAC minutes of January 21st, 2026 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item J, presentation and consideration of staff or trustee reports. Item 1, memo from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement, Indigenous Education Update, Family Support Workers, and an inaugural Indigenous Student Forum. Superintendent Harrell. Welcome, Josh, Ella, and Rylan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Indigenous Family Support Workers continue to support Indigenous students and families in our system, and recently worked with the Indigenous educators and Indigenous students to organize an inaugural Indigenous Student Forum, which was held at the CEC on February 20th, 2026. The event was a successful gathering of OCSB Indigenous students and allies sharing cultural knowledge and action plans for their schools' Indigenous Students Associations. Josh Lewis, the Indigenous Cultural Advisor, is joined by Ella Loops, Notre Dame, and Rylan Bond, St. Peter, to provide a presentation and will be happy to answer any questions.
Ani Bojo, Kinowia, Noden, Dijnakas, Josh Lewis, Dijnakas, Wipemakong, Minowa, Neswakamak, and Donjaba, Anishinaabe, King Donji, and Emedodam. So, hello everyone, my name is Josh Lewis. I am the Indigenous Cultural Advisor here at the OCSB, part of the Indigenous Education team. And I'll be presenting a little bit later, but I wanted to pass the mic over to these young warriors beside me who are going to be talking a bit about our inaugural Indigenous Student Forum. So I'll pass it over to them. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Josh. Kwe kakina ela Indigenikas, Pekwakanagan and Dojiba, Mikanak Manes Ninoji, Algonquin and Dawaya, Makwan and Indodam, pardon me, Minoa, Anishinaabe Moan, Madaswe, Ashi, Indisoba Bonagas, and Goodwiswe. Hello everyone, my name is Ella. I am from the Algonquins of Pekwakanagan First Nation Reservation. I am currently located on Turtle Island. I am a part of the Bear Clan. I'm currently learning Algonquin and Anishinaabe from Josh Lewis. I'm 16 years old. I go to Notre Dame. Rylan, go ahead. Anin Buju, Ryland Bon Indigenous Kaz, Nipissing Nindonjiba, Ottawa Nindonji. Hi, my name is Ryland Bone. My community is Nipissing, which is just a few hours northwest of here in Ottawa. My home, however, is Ottawa. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a student at St. Peter Catholic High School, and I was joined by Ella, and we were co-MCs for our most recent event, which was the Indigenous Student Forum. Emphasis on the first Indigenous Student Forum. Took a while. That was on February 20th of this year, and we hosted roughly 50 students here. We did many breakout workshops, which were TP building, Inuit games, etc. We saw a roughly 20-minute hoop dance presentation from a very talented hoop dancer named McKenna. Forget her last name. But I just wanted to say that it's important to have an Indigenous Student Forum because for some students, school can feel like a place where voices, history, and identities are overlooked, misunderstood, or even denied sometimes. And having an Indigenous Student Forum creates a safe space for those students and for their voices and stories not just to be heard, but to be listened to. And it wasn't just for the Indigenous peoples in the OCSB community. It was an opportunity for non-Indigenous peoples to listen, to learn, and to importantly unlearn what they were taught. Well, I would like to further emphasize the words of my student here, Ella. I do believe that it is vital for Indigenous students to have that experience at the Catholic School Board. And while we look back in history and realize that colonialism efforts have clearly failed because we are sitting here today, we still do face ongoing issues faced by Indigenous students, by First Nation, Métis, and Inuit students. And I think that having a forum was really important for a lot of us because it showed that the Catholic Board not only cared enough to host us, but cared enough to face reconciliation efforts, acknowledge their wrongdoings in the past, and acknowledge that there is a path forward to reconciliation and that we as students have a place to thrive within the Catholic School Board. And like Ella said, not only to have our voices heard and our stories heard, but to actually have them listened to. I was extremely grateful when I heard that there was an Indigenous Education Department at the OCSB, as previously I was in a public school and we did not have access to that. And I have been shown overwhelming support, not only from the family and student support workers, but from other students and from other staff at the Catholic School Board on behalf of Indigenous education. And I think that the Indigenous Student Forum really emphasized that. I'm still on my reconciliation journey with myself and my reconnecting journey, and I have to say that being a part of the Indigenous Student Forum really solidified a lot of things for me and helped me come to terms with a lot of really difficult parts of my identity, and for that I am forever grateful. Miigwech. I wasn't there for every picture taken there, but I can explain some of them. In the picture in the far right-hand side, that is Ken from the Indigenous education team teaching Inuit games to students, which in that picture specifically was something that we call leg wrestling. And then in the picture left to that, that's Heather Johnston's aunt, Connie, and she was teaching how to build mini teepees, but also teaching the history of teepees. In the picture on the top right was everyone clapping for McKenna, said hoop dancer that performed for us. Takes a lot to do that, takes a lot of energy. We would know we're learning how to hoop dance. I'm not sure, I forget the top left image, Josh. Okay. In the top left is shown McKenna Rankin-Garan, who was the hoop dancer alongside her brother DJ Mukwa, an up-and-coming Indigenous DJ or EDM artist. They were so gracious to come and present music and dance and even teach us a little bit of footwork that is pretty common across different styles of Indigenous dance. And I definitely appreciated that. I appreciated having both of them there. I very much look up to McKenna as a hoop dancer, as myself as an aspiring hoop dancer. And so I was really grateful to have her there. The picture next to it is actually during their performance, they invited to have students come up and dance alongside with them. And that's kind of just all of us agreeing that we understand what McKenna told us. Same with the picture on the bottom left. The picture on the bottom in the middle is Kristen Dumont, or Auntie Kristen to a lot of us. And she is a partner with the OCSB Indigenous Ed Department, and she came to give a speech and to do our closing speech along with her daughter, who's absolutely adorable. But I'm always very grateful to have her around. She always has such insightful words to say to us, and they always resonate no matter how I'm feeling. On the picture on the bottom right is an elder who came to share not only her story, but her current journey as an elder in a world that is trying so hard to reconciliate. And I always feel so great having her around and listening to her stories. They're very powerful. And despite the amount of stress and just horrible things that she has gone through, she always seems to have the most bright smile on her face, and it always warms my heart. She's very much a kukum and very much an auntie, and I do enjoy her presence all the time. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Ella. Miigwech, Rylan. I have a little bit of time here to kind of go through the last part of the presentation, which is to just mention our Indigenous student and family support workers. The team originally started with 2 folks that were seeing all the students in the schools, and that's Heather Johnson and Erin Zeleny. But this past year, our team has increased to with 3 other folks joining the team. And so now we have 3 elementary FSWs that support schools all across the city, as well as 2 secondary FSWs. And their role is to support with cultural, academic, advocacy, and community support. And I just wanted to showcase these folks because they do amazing work. So we have Tracy Schreiber, Erin Zeleny, and Kenneth Langille. And again, they're supporting K-6 schools all across the board. We broke them up kind of geography-wise. And so they're making sure to get to all the schools. And then again, with the secondary supports, we have Heather Johnson and Tessa Belanger, who support East and West high schools and make sure to get support to all the students. So now we have a team of 5 doing amazing work, and I just wanted to give them a really important shout out. With that, I really just wanted to kind of focus on the day-to-day support. The work is very much cultural, and that comes with many different things, including teachings, language lessons, regalia making, etc. There's academic supports, which includes, supporting and organizing with students, with their student associations, tutoring, advocacy work, which refers to like reach meetings with parents, schools, liaisons, etc., and going down to the community. So that's working with community partners to support. So with that, I'll just kind of skip through these last couple things here. And I just wanted to say some of the next steps for our team is to continue to grow. We're looking at hiring more FSWs, family support workers, and an Indigenous social worker, and continuing to grow our team and build, working alongside community as well as other departments within the school board. So with that, we just want to say Chimigwech for your time. I wish we had more time to share, but we're doing as much as we can. I just wanted to acknowledge the students for stepping up today. There's 2 great leaders in our board that are doing amazing work. So with that, Chimigwech, thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Any questions or comments from the trustees? Trustee Moore?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. I noticed that your initial forum, and I'm not going to get my words right, so sorry about this, Indigenous Students Association, I did okay, forum, that there was a lot of learning happening. And with the learning that you're doing, do you see in any way any supports that we could bring to the schools, specifically secondary schools, because those are where your students, that could bring every day some of this learning that was special to this day, but could be just everyday learning.
Yes, absolutely. So being from St. Pete's Catholic High School, we are a school of about 2,200, which is one of the biggest schools on the board. And I find that it is rather overwhelming at times to find supports. And so I think at the student level, ensuring that our family support workers are not stretched too thin, but also being able to have them in possibly once a week would be great, as well as having on-site supports. And I know that that is extremely difficult in these economically trying times, especially for school boards. But if it were a possibility, I would say that having on-site support would be essential for students, especially students who are trying to discover their identities or just the day-to-days of being an Indigenous student. However, on the teacher level, I do believe that more PD is in order for teachers. I find that not on more than one occasion I have addressed teachers, and I've had students address me about their teachers making really offhand comments or doing really offhand things in relation to Indigenous education. And I think that not only is that off-putting, but it's also disheartening. In a world of reconciliation, I believe that it is vital for teachers and educators to be educated. And the fact that I am hearing about these issues and facing these issues firsthand is really disappointing. And I think that there is a lot that the school board could be doing, as well as schools on their own, for PD, so that teachers are educated to be educators, especially on such specific topics such as Indigenous education. We are trying to work towards reconciliation, and this is not a circumstance in which I want to be taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
Jaden.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, that was an amazing presentation. I was just wondering, from a student perspective, if there are any plans in the future to promote the forum to keep it thriving for future years, if there's any thoughts.
I'll let Josh answer half of the question, but I know in Notre Dame specifically, we have Notre Dame is one of the smaller schools. I think we have 720 students, something like that. And our Indigenous community is about 5 students right now, to the point where 2 years ago, I was the face of Indigenous students in my school, to the point where people would come up to me and ask me if I was the Native kid, which wasn't that nice. But I know in my school specifically, we have grown a lot in the past 3 years in reconciliation. And this year, we're hosting a day in June where we're inviting different community members from OCSB and not from OCSB to just come and educate our school for the day, where you choose a workshop to do, whether that be powwow dancing, Inuit games, watching someone perform and talk about their story. And I know that's a big step that my school has taken, considering when I started at Notre Dame, we didn't do land acknowledgements. And now we're having full days dedicated where students don't even have to go to class and they can just go to learn. But that's my school specifically. Josh, you can answer board-wide.
Yeah, just very briefly, I think this first one is very much a capacity building thing to get students interested, and I hope that next year it'll grow and continue to grow. And it's kind of like in our communities, it's like word of mouth. That's kind of how things grow. So I think that these young folks here are gonna like share the word with other students, and hopefully next year we'll have, you know, twice as many students. So I see that that's how it's gonna grow in a good way now.
Trustee Phelan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment, if that's okay. Just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being here today. It takes a lot to put a presentation together, come here and present to complete strangers. So just really appreciate the opportunity to have you here in front of us and telling us more about yourselves and your individual stories. You're both very comfortable with public speaking, which is pretty awesome. It's a great trait to have. So keep up the great work. You're doing an awesome job, and keep moving forward.
Miigwech, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, miigwech.
Is there any other questions or comments? I would invite the four of you to come forward, and Trustee Coburn and I are going to give you a gift to the students. Okay, I need a mover for the presentation, please. Trustee Phelan. Trustee Melito, you seconding the motion? That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Leadership and Parent Engagement dated March 11, 2026, entitled Indigenous Education Update, Family Support Workers and Inaugural Indigenous Student Forum be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Associate Director Shimmons, can I ask you to come up and sit beside me, please? I was slower than, we just need someone at the table. It's okay. Item 2, memo from the Superintendent of Planning Facilities, reading the award of contract for the construction of the new Fernbank North Catholic Elementary School. Superintendent Vallon, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Board of Trustees. Tonight, I'm very pleased to present the results of our recent tender process and bring forward a recommendation for the award of the contract to construct the new Fernbank North Catholic Elementary School. As you may recall, the Ministry of Education initially provided capital funding to the board in June of 2024 to support the construction of a new elementary school. This project is crucial for our growing community as it will address the significant accommodation pressures we have experienced in the Stittsville area of Ottawa. Located at 620 Triangle Street, this new facility is designed to be a 507 pupil place elementary school and will include a much-needed 2-room child care center as well. On March 4th of this year, we received additional funding, ministry funding, to reflect the current market costs based on our submitted construction estimate. We received the formal approval to proceed, or ATP, letter from the ministry on March 5th, officially greenlighting us to move forward with the revised budget allocation. A formal call for tender was issued to the board's pre-qualified general contractors. That tender officially closed just a couple of weeks ago on March 12th at 2 p.m. We had a strong turnout with 6 general contractors participating in the process. Planning facility staff received 5 compliant bids, and these bids were subsequently opened in public here at the CSE. The lowest bid was received from Burgon Construction at $17,608,367. Following the closing of the tender, our project architects Pine Richards, Temprano Young and Architects, Inc. conducted the review of the bid submissions. They confirmed that the low bid from Burgon Construction was fully compliant with all tender documents and formally recommended that we award the contract to them. Burgon Construction is a reputable general contractor based in Eastern Ontario. They bring many years of valuable experience in the institutional projects, including successful construction of schools with one of our French public boards, the CEPO. Planning facilities have also reviewed the documentation, and we fully support the architect's recommendation. We are recommending the award of a CCDC2 stipulated price contract to Burgon Construction for the bid amount of $17,608,367 plus HST. Most importantly, this contract cost is within our approved ministry ATP budget. Looking ahead at our timeline, if approved tonight, we anticipate the general contractor will mobilize on the site in May 2026. We'll also be complying with the Ministry of Education's communication protocols and signage to acknowledge the provincial government's support of this project. Our target for substantial completion is August 2027, which keeps us on track for our planned opening to welcome students for September 2027 as well. In closing, this is an exciting and financially sound step forward to the Stittsville community. Therefore, I bring forward a report for your approval, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vallon. Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. I just have an information question. I approve what you're saying. I guess with the rise in fuel prices, it's going to change the cost of steel, lumber, cement, the basics over the next 4 to 6 months when they're starting. How is that worked out in the contract?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At this point, it is a firm lump sum price. However, within any of these major contracts, so there is a contingency or a clause in there for force majeure, which is like time of war. So they would be able to come back and ask for those additional costs potentially. However, there is already one in place, so the prices have already started to increase. So it would be something that would be discussed with the contractors. No guarantees. We're hoping that won't have a significant impact on the cost of the project, but it's something that we'll keep an eye on, and we'll see how the industry adjusts and also how the provincial government wants to address the overall cost. We do have some contingencies in the project, so at this point we're not really concerned with the project's completion. I think we should be good. Again, we are aware that deliveries, especially with the uncertainty with energy, that certainly is something up in the air, but hopefully we'll see good results through the project.
Trustee Phelan.
To you, Mr. Chair, just a quick comment, say thank you very much for all your hard work. Really appreciate it. I know that neighborhood for sure intimately needs a school. So really appreciate all your hard work. And anyways, thank you so much. Nice to see things getting off the ground.
Any other questions? Moved by Trustee Phelan, seconded by Trustee Moore, that the memorandum from the Superintendent of Planning and Facilities dated March 18, 2026, entitled Award of Contract, Construction of the New Fernbank North Catholic Elementary School be received, and that the subject to satisfactory conclusion of certain contractual matters, the contract for the construction of the new Fernbank North Catholic Education School Elementary School be awarded to Bergeron Construction in the amount of $17,608,367 plus HST. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 3, memo from the Associate Director of Education, resetting engagement St. Pius Student Achievement Plan. Welcome, Associate Director Vladi. Diana, Sandra, and Amanda, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. At the February 24th Board of Trustees meeting, I provided an update on the Student Achievement Plan. This evening, I'm pleased to welcome staff from St. Pius X High School, Vice Principal Daria Borland, and teachers Sandra Adoni and Amanda Lockyer. I would also like to mention that in attendance of support is Principal Capobianco. Mr. Chair, with the support of their Superintendent Benton, St. Pius has incorporated into their SAP a student engagement program called Resetting. Resetting is an innovative approach to addressing chronic absenteeism, increasing student engagement, and addressing credit accumulation. I will now pass it over to the St. Pius staff to begin the presentation.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to present the plan for the St. Pius X Attendance Engagement Program to the board. My name is Daria Borland, and I am one of the vice principals at St. Pius. Joining me today are Sandra Idone, Department Head of Student Services, and Amanda Lockyer, Student Success Teacher. The name of our engagement program is Reset, a program that aims to reconnect, engage, support, and empower students so they can thrive. What you will be hearing from this team is how the program was developed, what it entails, and finally, the intended outcomes once we have been able to run the pilot. I will now turn things over to Sandra.
Thank you, Daria. So the inspiration for the Reset program came from several key professional learning experiences and collaborative conversations over the past year. The initial spark for this program came from attending the Growing Student Success Conference last spring, and we attended a session that the OCSB put on of their attendance pilot program, and they had experienced a significant success in re-engaging non-attenders. Further inspiration for this program was gathered this past fall at the Ontario School Counselors Association Conference, where we explored the In Motion and Momentum Plus attendance program. While initially this program was designed as a career exploration program, it had an unexpected byproduct of improving student attendance and engagement. This past October, we met with Michelle Pierce, our guidance lead at the OCSB. She connected us with Justine Ogle, the lead social worker at OCSB. And Justine introduced us to the LINK program, which was an attendance-focused initiative developed by OCSB social workers this past summer. Over the fall, our team met regularly with our school board colleagues. We spent a lot of time learning about all of these programs, what had worked for them and what had not, and we identified what was most effective across these models. We then adapted those elements and merged them in to meet the needs of our students. The result of this process is the Reset program. The Reset program is designed to address chronic absenteeism. We focused on 3 key areas. First, we wanted to identify and address the barriers to school attendance. Secondly, we wanted to reconnect students with the caring adults in the building and their school community. We recognize that strong relationships are key and critical to engagement. And third, we wanted to support credit accumulation, as many students with high absenteeism are also significantly behind on credits. For this initial pilot, we have identified a target group of approximately 12 students using multiple data sources, which Amanda will review in more detail in a few slides. The program is structured to run over 4 consecutive evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. at St. Pius. We have intentionally designed this program to engage both students and their caregivers, recognizing the critical role that family involvement plays in student success. To reduce barriers to participation, we are providing dinner and on-site childcare each evening. As an added incentive and long-term support, students will be provided with Chromebooks for use throughout the program. Upon successful completion, they will be able to keep the device. This ensures that they have continued access to the tools needed to complete coursework and stay engaged in their learning beyond the program itself. A key part of this program is having students begin working towards a learning strategies credit, focusing on self-awareness, interests, strengths, and career exploration activities. Successful participants will continue this credit through the Achievement Center block once they re-engage at St. Pius as part of their reintegration plan. The timing of this program was intentional after March break to not disrupt momentum, but also early enough in the semester where they can continue working on credit accumulation until the end of June. During each evening, we are going to have parallel sessions running, one for parent session and one for students. The parent sessions are going to be facilitated by PLEO. PLEO is the Parents Lifeline of Eastern Ontario in collaboration with our OCSB social workers. The parent sessions are designed to provide a supportive forum where caregivers can share their experiences, discuss challenges related to school refusal, and learn very practical strategies to support their child's attendance. School staff will also be present to help strengthen relationships, build trust, and increase caregiver confidence in navigating and connecting with the school. The student sessions will be led by the school board mental health worker, alongside school staff, including guidance counselors like myself and our student success teacher, Amanda Lockyer. These sessions will focus on mental health skill building, helping students identify barriers to attendance, and developing coping and resilience strategies. The students will also engage in structured self-reflection. These are designed to help students better understand their individual strengths, areas for growth, and personal interests. As I mentioned in the previous slide, this work will serve as the foundation for credit-based coursework. Students will also have dedicated one-on-one time with a guidance counselor or the student success teacher, or both, to review their credit summaries, to explore pathway options, and develop a personalized re-engagement plan. This ensures that each student leaves the program with a clear, individualized path forward. The development of this program has been a highly collaborative effort, bringing together a number of key partners. We worked very closely with the OCSB Student Success Department, Sarah Abrams and Michelle Pierce. We have many guest speakers lined up from the OCSB to tell parents and students about exciting and alternative programs that are available and offered through our board. For example, the Supervised Alternative Learning Program, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, the Personalized Learning Center, the School Within a College at Algonquin, and our Culinary Co-op program. Our social work team and PLEO have been working together to prepare for the parent sessions. Our mental health worker has been working with our school team to prepare for the student sessions. All of this ensures that the program is both academically and emotionally supportive. The YMCA will be joining us one evening to help facilitate career exploration activities for students. And finally, through the Calm Kids program, we were able to secure Chromebooks at no cost, which will be instrumental in supporting both program delivery and ongoing student success. At this point, I will turn it over to Amanda to review the data we use to identify our target group.
The RESET program supports the St. Pius Student Achievement Plan's Be Well goal of reducing chronic absenteeism. By analyzing PowerSchool and Compass attendance records, teacher intervention lists, and credit accumulation reports, we identified a high priority target group. Specifically, the program focuses on students with an absenteeism rate of 25% or higher, those deregistering to homeschool, and those falling behind in credit accumulation. To identify the best candidates for the program, the RESET team conducted a thorough review of eligible student profiles. We then reached out to families directly, and the response has been incredibly positive. Many parents expressed a strong desire for practical strategies to better support their children's success. Our current cohort consists of students in grades 9 through 12 who share several intersecting challenges, most notably chronic absenteeism and school-related anxiety, alongside significant delays in credit accumulation and a high risk of total disengagement from school.
As we conclude this presentation, we would like to emphasize our intended outcomes. First, our measurable outcomes, or metrics. We will be looking for improvement in regular school attendance, or alternatively, a successful transition to an alternative program. The last metric will be the successful completion of the GWL, or a learning skills credit, that students will be starting during the program. The skills and supports that students will have learned during the RESET program will help them with their transition to improved attendance, specifically in supporting their academic reintegration, providing built-in peer support, and also targeting their wellness. Our hope for the program is threefold: creating individual student plans to support their learning, collecting data and feedback from exit surveys to inform changes for future cycles of the program, and finally, the creation and refinement of a working re-engagement model that we can share with other high schools. Thank you for allowing us the time to share our project with you, and we invite any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Trustee Lukadich-Myers.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the presentation. I definitely would be interested to have you guys back once this is completed so that we can talk about the results. And I just wanted to ask, in your preparations for setting up the program, could you talk to a little bit to what are the most common barriers to school attendance? Is there, a couple of groups that you've kind of identified, that might be the most common kind of groupings? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's all sorts of reasons, and part of the program is discovering the why and then addressing those, but certainly anxiety is a big one, and sometimes when students, they have really good intentions of showing up or staying engaged. I sort of used this analogy today when we were discussing at a department head meeting, but school is like the hamster wheel. It keeps on going even when you're not there. And when you're out, it's really hard to jump back on that hamster wheel. So the hope for this program is to sort of slow that wheel down, meet them where they are, and allow them to re-engage in a very comfortable, welcoming way.
Trustee Moore.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I got interested when you talked about the In Motion and Momentum program. It sounds like they accidentally tapped into adult education, where that's where I work, and you have to have a purpose to everything you do, that's why they want to do it. And it seems like you're just dealing with very young adults, very, very young ones. But so I can see that it's going to work, and it'd be lifelong strategies for them as well, because you're tapping into the adult part of them. But as well, I had a question about the individual student plans. Why not IEPs? Because why add more acronyms when we already have a method that works quite well to keep track of students?
Through you, Mr. Chair, IEPs are individual education plans which deal with their resource through our resource department. Not all of these students are monitored by resource. So the individual plans that we are going to be creating are going to be honoring the student voice, and it's going to be specific to each student. Not all of them will be re-engaged to St. Pius. We want them to re-engage into school in some capacity, and sometimes a regular day school is not for everybody in this point in their lives. That's why we've introduced, or we've invited other people from the OCSB to talk about all the really wonderful opportunities that exist within the board. So when we talk about individualized plan, it's really what that student is going to do to re-engage into school, if that makes sense.
Can I ask a supplemental to that? It actually is relevant to the question. So will you be looking then, as well as alternative programs, looking at OYAP and looking at the trades?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we are going to introduce OEAP. I had mentioned it as Ontario Youth Apprentice Program because I was told not to use acronyms, but SAL, the Supervised Alternative Learning, OEAP, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, PLC, our Personalized Learning Program, all of our alternative offerings within the board are going to be discussed and introduced. Not that we want to direct them away from Pius, we want them to stay, but the most important thing is that they stay engaged in Catholic education at the OCSB.
Trustee Simpson, then Trustee Coburn.
I'm very excited about this program, and I'm so happy to see that you've engaged a partnership with PLIO to help you deliver the program. So I guess my question is twofold. How are you going to be engaging parents in the future with a follow-up to their child's attendance? And will you be sharing this best practice with other high schools once you get results from the program?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the hope is that, well, the intention of the program is that for the 4 weeks that we are running it, the parents are going to be present and in their own sessions for the parallel sessions. And we will be surveying them at the end and keeping in regular contact with them afterwards and doing check-ins with the students. So I think that the fact that we will be face-to-face with them during those 4 sessions will help to build that relationship and will help to carry that relationship forward as the student reintegrates. And I'm sorry, I missed the second part of the question. Oh, yes. And that is our hope as well, to be able to share our experiences with the other high schools, hopefully next year, and see this carried through to other schools with changes, like if schools require changes based on their own demographics or their own needs, then obviously this program can be tailored to that.
Trustee Coburn? Sierra?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just want to first of all say that as a St. Pius student, I'm so proud to be a part of such an amazing learning environment and such an amazing community, and I want to commend the work the Student Success Department is doing. I've seen the impact it's had on my peers and students within the community, so thank you. I guess my question would be, in terms of co-curricular involvement and extracurricular involvement, is there a correlation between those two? Is there an intersectionality in avoiding, I guess, absenteeism at all? And my second point for students, I guess, if there would be a message for students in regards to the peer support portion of the presentation, would be how can students, I guess, support this program? What can they do to help encourage students to get involved in the community?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This program, we wouldn't necessarily be asking other students at this point to encourage students to get involved. This is a pretty private thing for a lot of the students who are already disengaged, which is why we're doing it in the evening, because oftentimes it's difficult for those students to step into the building because of their anxiety and because of their sometimes negative feelings that they have and perceptions from their past experiences. So, so we're not going to advertise this to the students. We certainly have discussed this with our staff and our department heads, and they're all very excited about it. But it's not a student, it's not going to be something that's spoken about.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I have a mover for the presentation, please? Would that be St. Pius guy?
I'd love to. Yeah, great job, by the way.
Moved by Trustee Phelan, seconded by Trustee Lukatich-Myers, that the memorandum from the Associate Director of Education dated March 11th, 2026, and entitled Resetting Engagement at St. Pius Student Achievement Plan be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 4, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, read 2026-2027 Budget Process Guidelines. Associate Director Shimmons, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight we have our routine budget process and guidelines memo. So maybe as referenced earlier here, dare I say that this may be one of the dry presentations that Trustee Witt had referred to, but sometimes routine is good. So we'll rely on that. So we've been busy working on our budget development for the past few months in preparation of the announcement for the core education funds, or the CEF grants, for 26-27, which we hope to expect soon. Department budget requests have gone out, have been collected, and discussed as part of our executive meetings. Staffing allocations are being finalized for teachers and all other employee groups, and we're awaiting the OSTA budget to inform us of the transportation expense for our board share of transportation. Input from partners has been coming in, including the always valued input received earlier tonight from CSPA, PIC, and SEAC. We're awaiting the announcement of the Ontario budget this Thursday, and the grant announcements traditionally follow that in a reasonable time. Given as we're going into a bargaining year and the governance announcement is still pending, it will be difficult to predict the timing and potential changes of our grants and our funding. Last year, announcements came late in May, and it isn't unusual for them to come in the May month. So we do still have some time to wait to find out what our grant allotment will be. The purpose of this memo is twofold. First, it's to lay out the section review of the budget reports to the board, and second, to outline the guidelines that will be followed for building the preliminary budget for presentation. So for the first part, the section review, budget information is broken out into logical components over a period of meetings. And we'll bring those forward, the sections of the budget, forward at the April 28th through June 9th meetings. And an overall preliminary operating budget, including a proposal to the board for consideration to balance, is planned to be presented at the last board meeting in May, May 26th, in order to allow time and consideration for board direction for any changes prior to the actual budget approval, which is expected on June or scheduled for June 9th. The CEF grant announcements will be brought to the closest board meeting that permits following the actual announcements. So we'll provide as much information as we can to the board regarding any impact of grant changes based on what we know as that comes in. Next, I'd like to speak to the guidelines for budget development. There is a list of selected guidelines that come from the ministry that boards must follow when developing the budget, in addition to the guidelines from trustees and from partner input. I'll just choose the major ones outlined in your memo to focus upon. So the first one is the balanced budget requirement and the restriction on the use of accumulated surplus reserves. Boards are required to balance their budgets to be compliant, which means by ministry regulation, we're able to draw down or spend up to 1% of our reserve funds to balance the budget for a period of 2 consecutive years. After that 2-year period, the board is required to submit a plan as to why it needs to use reserves to balance the budget and have the minister approve it prior to the board approving or passing the budget. The ministry is seeking to ensure boards are not getting into trouble by using reserves to support structural deficits and heading into difficulty. For this reason, we have traditionally only spent or drawn down the 1% reserves on one-time expenditures and not on permanent expenses. In the current year, 25-26, is year 1 of a planned drawdown of 1% of reserves for one-time investments in the system. For next year, 26-27, barring any unexpected changes to the grants, and with our strong enrollment growth, we expect to balance the regular portion of the operating budget from regular grant revenues and other revenues, and we would only be drawing down on reserves beyond that to support one-time investments in the system. The second part of the guideline memo I'd like to highlight is the class size requirements. Salaries and benefits make up approximately 80% of our budget, or over $650 million of our overall budget. Therefore, the section of your memo that refers to class size requirements for elementary and secondary is a key guideline for building our budget. Should grants come in lower than what we hope, reducing staff below these class sizes is not permissible, and instead we would be looking to adjustments in non-staffing budgets if necessary. That completes the highlights of our 26-27 budget process and guideline reports for this evening. I'm excited that the budget is scheduled for final approval on June 9th board meeting, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Crystal clear. A mover, Trustee Coburn, seconded. Trustee Ogoteach-Byers. The memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated March 11, 2026, entitled 2026-2027 Budget Process and Guidelines be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 5, memo from the Director of Education, 2026 School Board Elections Trustee Determination and Distribution. Mrs. Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do apologize ahead of time for my coughing. Hopefully I'll get through this. So every 4 years, we bring this forward to the board in the spring ahead of the municipal elections, which you know will happen in the fall of 2026. So hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory with the links, but I'm also happy to answer any questions. As you'll see or have seen from my memo, on April 3rd, we are to send this resolution that hopefully you'll pass tonight to the Minister of Education, the school board election clerk, and OCSTA. We have not had our usual request for this from the Minister of Education, nor do we have much knowledge or information from the school board election clerk, but we still have that directive with this deadline, so that's why the timing is for today. I do want to thank Stephanie Dunn in my office, who did, I was going to say a lot, but the vast majority of the work in preparing this, and she had some very important help from Jeff Vanderspank in the Planning and Facilities Department. Jeff was able to go into the data that the city provides to us or makes accessible to us to say that even though there have been a few little changes to municipal areas, this did not affect any of our schools. So trustees who have been at the table for previous elections will know that in past years, sometimes there's been a significant change, and then so the Board of Trustees has done some work and decided to change zones for trustees, but there really was no need at this time because we didn't see that it's affecting any of our areas. So basically, you'll see the recommendation there. It is mandated that we have a resolution brought to the Board of Trustees, that it's passed, and then, as I said, we report it to those three bodies. And again, because of the non-existent changes that affect our board, the calculation is such that we would be requesting from the trustee determination and distribution calculation to continue with 10 trustees. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I have one question. Have any of the zones changed on the composition of the present ward structure?
No, not to my knowledge.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Trustee Warren.
Just a question, not anything to do with this. But if we were to move to 11 trustees, at what point it would depend on the student population or on the ward configuration?
My understanding is we would have to rejig the 10 zones. That's why I just asked that question. So there's 24 city wards, correct? And obviously we don't all have 2.5 or 2.4. So they're spread out. There's certain rules that the wards must touch each other or the boundaries must align to become a zone, and we have to divide it by 10. So I understand that we've been allotted, I shouldn't not say that, because we haven't been allotted any trustees yet, although nothing has changed yet.
It'd be interesting if we were actually going to have an election.
Yet.
Yeah.
But the 24 wards would be the same as the last election in 2022, and our 10 zones would represent the 24 wards the same as they did in that election. If there was to be 11, you are very optimistic. We would have to come back and do this before officially nominations open on May the 1st until there's a change. And the ward boundaries would be set up the same as the City of Ottawa boundaries, and the government can do whatever they want, and they have. So I don't have a crystal ball. Any other questions? Trustee Lukatic-Bars?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not really a question, just if I could just have my the spelling of my first name corrected. Reminds me a little bit of a story I heard not long ago.
I apologize. We will have that corrected.
No, that's fine.
Do you know which document he's talking about?
Just Luca, not Luke.
It's on the link, right?
Thank you. Moved by trustee Coburn, seconded by trustee Melito. That the memorandum from the Director of Education dated March 11, 2026, entitled 2026 School Board Elections, Trustee Determination and Distribution be received, and that the Board of Trustees approve the trustee determination and distribution calculation, which indicates the Ottawa Catholic School Board will have 10 trustees. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I hope. Item 6, memo from the Director of Education, virtual schools update. Director Dahi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Liam, I'll have your help in advancing the slide. If you go to the next slide for me, please. Excuse me. So I just want to bring forward this evening an update on our virtual schools moving forward for the 2026-2027 school year. So I'll just briefly go over the history, as you know and have seen this. So as we know, virtual schools were developed out of a need during the pandemic, and our early model had almost 11,000 students enrolled. Each year, we've been monitoring it, discussing as an executive team, especially in our student success departments, whether we're still offering, the best program that we can and meeting the needs of our students. But our enrollment has been steadily decreasing significantly, as you'll see in a later slide, as the years have gone since the pandemic. Our mental health experts have done a lot of work, and a lot of research has been looked at, and we're really seeing a lot of evidence that, not for individual students, but on the whole, mental health is better, is improved in students when they have in-person education. And then we also have some contractual expectations that we have to meet that are becoming problematic, both staffing and financially wise in the virtual schools because of the small numbers, in particular in our high schools. So if you could just look at the next slide for us, Liam, please. Thank you. So you can see, as I mentioned, 10,757 students before 2021 in our kindergarten through 12 virtual programs. And of course, that was during the pandemic. Currently, we have a total of 265, if you go to the sort of beige bottom row, and we have made some changes over the years, so we now have a K-8 model and a separate 9-12 model, and we have, just over 130 students in those in each of those groups, so 131 in K-8, and currently 134 students in the 9-12. Liam, if you don't mind going forward for me, please. Thank you. I just want to make sure that I explain this chart correctly. So this chart does not include salaries for staff, because basically wherever the students are, I'm generalizing here, but we need to hire a teacher, right? Depending on the ratios for primary, junior, intermediate, or secondary, we do need to hire staff. We may be a little bit overstaffed in the virtual schools because the class sizes tend to be smaller, but we still need those teachers. So if we completely got rid of our virtual program, we wouldn't really be saving any teachers' costs. Maybe we do 1 or 2, but basically that's a wash. But what this chart indicates is all the extra or additional costs to our programs, which are above the teacher costs. And the vast majority of these would be absorbed, again, if we got rid of all of our virtual programs and all of our virtual students went back to in-person programs, then the teacher cost, sorry, not the teacher cost, but the costs for office administrators, guidance counselors in the high school, et cetera, would be absorbed. The only exception would be is, let's say, all of our 131, it wouldn't even work, but say 80K to 6 students all went to one school, well, then that might push that enrollment higher, that we would need more OAs and stuff, but that would be highly unlikely. So that you can see is a total of just over 1.8 million. We're not proposing that we would save all of this money with any of our changes, but we just wanted to be transparent on the costs. So if we go to the next slide, this is just sort of a summary on this page and the next of the data and research that is supporting what our mental health workers have been telling us, our social workers, psychologists, et cetera, that we're seeing generally an increase in mental health, better mental health for students in in-person school. And so then you can see the next one is also a summary of the data. So if we go to the next slide, Liam, that says current work. So as I said, mentioned earlier, the virtual model has been reviewed regularly by our team since the pandemic. We have done some fine tuning and made some changes. Recent model changes, originally we had K to 8 and 9 to 12, and we dropped the kindergarten a few years ago and we went from grade 1 to grade 8, and that was a slight change from our original model that had the 7/8 with the high school students. As I said, as up to this year, our intermediate, secondary, and our elementary student success departments reviewed a number of models to further address issues within the virtual model, and our executive team discussed those. So if we go to the next slide, this is the new work I've shared with trustees, but not in this format. What we will be doing for next year is we're returning to in-person learning for students in grades 1 to 3. So our current program at St. Carlo that goes from grade 1 to grade 8 would go from grade 4 to grade 8. So that's just affecting the current grade 1 and grade 2 students. And so I can give you a little bit of data that I did not have at the time of putting this presentation together, but we currently have 17 students in our St. Carlo virtual school in grades 1 and 2. And so far we know that 6 have chosen for next year to go to homeschooling. We're just getting this data in this week. And so we will offer to those 6 families the option of a HOPE program. And I won't go into all the details right now, but would be happy to bring that back to a different board presentation. But our HOPE program is basically an individualized program for a student where there's often a combination of some homeschooling that the parents want to do and maybe an in-class experience often for French or 1 day a week at the elementary level, or maybe 1 section or block at the high school level. Right now I'm just talking about elementary. So 6 have said that they'll go to homeschooling. 2 of our students or their parents have indicated that they will go to another board. 5 are returning to their home school, to the in-person, and 4 of them we're waiting to hear from. So that's the data we know as of late this afternoon for our grade 1 and 2 students, the 17 of them that will be most directly affected. Where we see some potential changes in grade 9 to 12, although we're not per se changing, we're still saying we're offering virtual as the current students at St. Josephine High School have for grade 9 to 12 students. If we can just continue to see the trend where the enrollment is going down, that gives us less and less flexibility to offer many courses, often elective, for our students because we have a minimum capacity, right? We can't offer a course for 2 students. And so what we expect is, as we've seen over the last number of years in the 9 to 12 panel, that students who choose to remain at the virtual program will have fewer options for virtual. The nice thing about the 9 to 12 panel is the government actually mandates for all students that they take 2 e-learning courses. And so the difference between our virtual program and the e-learning is the virtual program are synchronous online courses. So it's a subject, a teacher, a class. They meet at a regular time, just like they would in a mortar and brick school. They're all online. When students choose in the virtual high school program a course, or they need a course and we don't have the capacity to run that, then we can combine those students with our students, and in fact with all the consortiums we have across the province, and offer an e-learning, but that would be asynchronous. So just like our mortar and brick students have the option to take at least 2 of those courses, our St. Josephine virtual students would have the option of taking e-learning, but it would be, they have a teacher and they're assigned the section, but they don't meet face-to-face virtually with their teacher or class. So if we go to the next slide, please, Liam. So this is what we've decided, is that St. Carlo Virtual Elementary will join St. Anthony School. As I mentioned, it would be grades 4 to 8. And St. Josephine Secondary Virtual would join Notre Dame. We did pick these because they're smaller of our schools, and so we would basically be saving 2 principals. The principal would acquire these programs. Now, prior to putting together this slide deck, this was the decision. We have received input from trustees and from parents who really feel attached to the name. And I know in particular with St. Carlo, when he was canonized, it was called Blessed Carlos, and then he became a saint. The school, along with Father Martin, really were in, I was just losing his name for a second there, we're very involved in that process. So you're the first to hear this. We've not told our families yet, but we would like to, instead of dropping the name, saying it would be St. Carlo Elementary or St. Carlo Virtual Program at St. Anthony, so we would retain the name. And similarly with St. Josephine, a lot of the students feel an affinity to that name. So the high school option would be St. Josephine Virtual or St. Josephine Secondary Virtual Program at Notre Dame High School. So that's a slight change. As part of the transition, students will be supported to their return to in-person learning. If we look at just the elementary example I gave, I think it was 6 that are going back to 5 that were returning to their home schools so far. We would want to give them transition support. In terms of our high school students, as I mentioned, we anticipate, we don't know for sure yet, we're still gathering the requests from those students as to what courses they want, whether they're staying with virtual, et cetera. But we anticipate that they'll need some transitions to more of a e-learning program, right? Having fewer synchronous courses. And so you saw from that potential savings slide, we are going to, we will have money to reinvest the supports. At this point, I can't really say what those will be because we want to give individualized supports to our students and families, and we don't know all of their decisions yet, but we do have a commitment, of course, to putting money towards that and to having extra support at both St. Anthony and Notre Dame, in particular to help these students, but also to help the students that are leaving virtual and going back to their home mortar and brick school. And Liam, if you could go to the next slide for me, please. And so the process is really just over the next 2 slides. I do recognize it was a bit rushed, but I do want to list on this slide, and if Liam goes to the next, you'll see sort of the process we followed. There wasn't a lot of time between steps, but we are still planning on more communication with our parent communities from the current St. Virtual School and St. Carlo Virtual Schools, and we promised this after our first parent meetings that we have with them before the March break. So we do have a commitment and a plan to further communicate with our parents. And so I think, because I'm always after my team for staying on time, I may have been close to going over. I think, Mr. Chair, I will stop at this point and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Trustee Simpson.
Hi, everyone. I'm hoping that I've had a few flaky moments with my computer, so I'm hoping that you get to hear all of my comments. First of all, I want to thank Director Donahue for announcement. I think that the communities of St. Carlo and St. Josephine are going to be very, very happy that they're able to retain the name for their programs. As the trustee of the virtual school since their inception, I've attended many virtual classes and all of the graduations at St. Josephine, and I've witnessed firsthand the success that students have achieved during their tenure in their virtual schools. And I agree with studies and our exec team that bricks and mortar schools are definitely best for most students. However, there are students who have thrived, many for the first time in the virtual environment. As pointed out in the presentation by the McKibbins, these successes are mostly due to the dedication and superlative teachers and administrators who met their students where they were and worked very hard for them to achieve success. St. Carlo and St. Josephine have built strong and vibrant communities and have worked very hard to achieve these despite the challenges that a virtual environment poses. This is a credit to the students and the parents and the school councils and staff of those schools. So to find out just prior to the March break that their communities that they have worked so hard to build were going to be significantly altered came as quite a shock. I attended the parents' meetings, and the parents at these meetings were clearly upset that there had been no consultation, and parents and students were given no voice that in the fact that their schools were going to be dismantled and primary students would have no virtual school to attend in the fall. Parents in these meetings were so incredibly supportive of their schools. They had such incredibly positive comments about teachers and clearly expressed how they really had a strong desire to stay within our school board and the Catholic values that we strive for. As vice chair of the board, I'm very aware that this is an operational decision outside of our purview. I also understand that tough decisions need to be made, and given all the information presented in this report, I understand how tough these decisions are. However, as a trustee of the virtual schools, I'm responsible for student success, and that success should be predicated on the collaboration of school and home. I feel that this process has been rushed. And although the decision has not been made lightly, and careful consideration has been devoted to it by our senior admin team, I feel I can't accept the receipt of this report until I have more information about the transition of all students and how their individual needs will be accommodated. Parents and students chose to attend virtual schools for many reasons, and those reasons need to be heard and planned for, as well as all community traditions need to be considered. We're at our board table, we make many important decisions. One in particular that we made for the sake of one child. Well, and their successful, their success in their academic years. So for the sake of these children, I don't feel that I can vote to accept this report until more details about future supports are in place and that parents and school council input has been asked for. So my vote will be to not accept this report in its current state. Thank you.
Trustee Melito, then Trustee Coburn.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Like, I struggled with this one because last year, I'm not sure of the time, but it was last year during one of our board meetings, we had a delegation of students from the virtual high school singing the praises of the school to the board. And this is post-pandemic, so I don't buy this pandemic as a reason, our numbers have dropped. These students that these schools are serving have always been with us. And I defy anybody who has been a principal in a high school, elementary school, to say that I'm wrong. They've been with us, but they were falling through the cracks. Now they got a home, and they're very proud of their home. And they're gonna fight for their home. So we went from less than a year ago, singing the praises of the virtual high school and how wonderful it is, telling us that it's just an amazing school, et cetera, to today, where we have a presentation, Save Our School. So my first question is, what happened? And I'm not buying this post-pandemic, and I'm not buying experts, because I can find experts that will give you the other side of the story too. So what happened? The second question, if I may, is a point that Trustee Simpson has made. I don't see any delegations or, parents' consultation in these slides. Am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can answer those two questions. Yeah. So if I understood the trustee correctly, the first one was he's asking what happened from last year towards this year. Yeah. So I just want to clarify, and you mentioned, but I know you're talking about elementary and secondary. Through Mr. Chair, the trustee mentioned that we had a presentation on the high school, so St. Josephine Virtual. That is not changing. So we're still offering the same program, the same opportunities for grade 9 to 12 students. We're still putting in course selections. The students are being asked, the parents were being told that their students can stay. We're trying to be transparent, and maybe we're wrong, but if the trend continues, as we've seen over the last number of years, we won't physically be able to offer the same number of sections in our virtual high school that we did this current year. And so we're just trying to make parents aware of that, and we're just trying to be prepared for that we anticipate for, as the trustee mentioned, our students who are thriving and we think enjoying their program right now, that it might look a little bit different next year. And we want to anticipate and then ask our students and parents what support they need from changing, say, I'm making up numbers, but saying 2 current virtual sections in the virtual St. Josephine School to 2 e-learning. So that's the only change in high school. In the elementary schools, the change is the elimination of 3 grades. So we originally eliminated kindergarten, and now we're eliminating grades 1 to 3. And that's twofold or threefold, but I'll concentrate on the first 2. That is from the research, from our concerns of some students never physically being in a building, and the research is saying that connectedness is important for mental health. And secondly, because those numbers have also been decreasing, we could be wrong, but we're anticipating that the numbers are going to be so low that we won't have the capacity to offer not the sections in elementary, but the classes, right? So we have a grade 1, 2. We won't have the numbers for that next year. That's the change there. To the trustee's second question, I would agree that we haven't had parent consultation. We've had consultation after the fact, and we will continue to do that in how can we support their students. In the high school, it's not a change. In the junior, it's not a change. In the primary, it is, and I was able to give you some preliminary data today. So we're getting closer to a better idea of, how can we support students in homeschooling? Did they really want to do homeschooling, or do they feel that's all they can do because we're not offering this? What can we offer them was the HOPE program help in that. To the students that are going back to in-school, were they in mortar and brick school rather, were they planning on that anyway, or did they feel that they had to do that, and how can we support them? So hopefully that answers the 2 questions from that trustee, Mr. Chair.
Follow-up?
Go ahead.
With the whole process, I'm glad that you are stating that the consultation with the parents came after the fact. And that's pretty alarming to me when, in my 40 years with this board, consultation with parents has been key with any significant change in school programming. I would hope, and I'll just make a comment, that this is just a glitch and it's not the way we do business from here on in, because this is not who we are. This is not how we operate. Parents have a voice, and the consultation is done first and foremost before you present them with the plan like that. That's just...
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I would agree with the trustee. I should have corrected myself. There has been consultation through the secondary process, because every year we have to ask the parents and the students more specific questions than we do at the elementary, and that's just the nature of the programming. So because, as you know, secondary students have to take required courses, elective courses, different options, and some aren't options. We have had emails going from the principals, I believe since the beginning, every year out to the parents in terms of what they're looking for. I wouldn't say it's been as specific as, do you want to keep this program, or how can, but there has been some consultation, particularly with the secondary, and this just is a glitch. I'll take ownership for it in terms of, I hear the trustees' comments.
So we got trustee Coburn, trustee Whitted, and then trustee Moore, and then trustee Melito back on the bottom of the list, unless trustee Simpson is back on the bottom of the list before Mr. Melito, unless, of course, Mr. Phelan would like to speak, and then it would be his first time. Everybody got that straight? Trustee Coburn.
Oh, thank you for the reports. So I guess I'm going to offer a counter view to the 2 colleagues that I've heard. Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a while, from 10,000 to 265. So let's hang on to it for our dear lives. So I guess if you're aware of what's going on in education, right, and what's going on from a financial perspective, to me, this is something that I've been waiting for, as I say, for a little while. I can't believe that we're nickel and diming this. I would eliminate the program based on what we're seeing now. So I actually was going to ask you to go quicker than what we're doing with regards to this. And so, I'll support this recommendation, but I would support through the budget process even a recommendation of getting rid of the virtual program for the board.
Trustee Whitted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just a couple of comments to add to my colleagues' points. I am pretty disappointed that there was not more consultation and that, quite frankly, trustees weren't involved. We don't traditionally close schools without, a significant amount of consultation with the community, without bringing an item for discussion to the board. And I don't recall an opportunity, if this is purely financial in nature, or mostly financial in nature, I don't recall an opportunity for trustees to have the discussion on whether we'd support a drawdown of additional funds to support the ongoing care and maintenance of our virtual schools. I mean, quite frankly, we spend money on more trivial things than this. And this is an opportunity to support students who, may have special accommodations and needs like we heard tonight, as well as, students who, quite frankly, learn differently. There's 265 students who, may not graduate without this type of learning environment and this setup for them. I would agree with Trustee Simpson that this was a bit of a rush job. And I'm disappointed that this was a big miss on senior administration's part to not do more homework on this and to have a discussion with the board at an earlier date. So my recommendation to colleagues was, let's pause. Don't support the receipt of this particular item. Let's have a further discussion for what we can do beyond, I guess it would be 27, 28, I believe. And let's have a discussion as we're embarking on the budget process, if this is something we as a group would want to provide some additional funds or are able to provide some additional funds for. To Trustee Melito's point, I don't accept simply that this is just as a glitch. This is not how we operate. This would represent, quite frankly, the closure, the first closure of a school, albeit not bricks and mortar, but the closure of a school community, certainly since I've been on the board since 2017. I think more people need to have a moment to be heard, and trustees to be consulted and offer some solutions to administration to keep this potentially going if there's value. So thank you.
Trustee Moore.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I rarely care what the minister has to say, but it was pointed out to me in when we had our closed meeting that these are actual schools that we are closing. We are now Ontario's best school board. Oh, wasn't that a lovely target on our back to find something wrong? And we're closing schools without public consultation during a moratorium on school closures. I think that question needs to be answered, and very fully, from the minister's office if this is an acceptable move. The cost is actually less than the $750 he's going to subtract from our budget for each teacher getting $750. Running this school, at least until we get an answer on whether or not this is acceptable, or he will take us over because we've done something he doesn't like. And we all got that memo this week that that's what he's going to do. I'd like that question answered first before we make this move, please. I know it's an operational move, but you're closing 2 schools. They are actual schools. And so I would say let's put a hold on this and not accept the report until we have that kind of information.
Trustee Phelan?
Yes, you can.
Someone can call the question.
Yeah, can we vote on it?
Yeah, I'll call the question. I'd like a recorded vote on the item, please.
Okay, on logistics, we're receiving a report. We're not voting on an action item that was put to us. So we need to be, I need direction on if this fails, what does it entail?
It would not be included in the board's agenda that this item was even here. Just, or that it went and it failed, if it doesn't even get a mover and a seconder.
We can bring it again. I'll move it. If it doesn't get a second.
Moved by trustee Coburn. Question's been called. Seconder. There's no seconder. Therefore, I can't call the vote. So it fails on a procedural, it just dies on the agenda. Who's dinging?
That's me. Just sorry, just on a point of order, I would like to request that that this be in your chair's meeting, Mr. Chair, that this be added to a future agenda for the director to come back and present what the alternatives are, and we have this included in budget for a discussion at a future date.
In agenda planning?
Yeah, and for a budget discussion at a future budget-related meeting.
I'm not sure what that means.
No, neither do I. Because it died and was not voted on, it can be presented at another board meeting because it hasn't been voted in favor or against. Everybody agrees with that synopsis? We'll move on to item K. New business, there is none. Notice of motions, there is none. Confirmation of the action report. Can I have a mover, please? Not everybody at once. Meeting's still going on, boys and girls.
There's no action report. Did you read it? It's blank.
There is no action report?
There is no action report.
Stephanie.
No, there were no items.
So there's no items in the action report, so there is no action report. So we don't need a motion of the action report. Madam Director, administrative announcements.
Thank you. So this was referenced earlier. On a positive note, Education Insider magazine named the Ottawa Catholic School Board the top Catholic school board in Canada. So I think you all saw the electronic announcement. We got our one hard copy. So we have a nice cover and an article if you'd like to look at that. I don't believe we have any birthdays that aren't between now and our next board meeting or closer to our next board meeting. But I believe we will have Holy Week and Easter before we meet again. So I want to wish everyone a blessed Holy Week and a little bit early. I hate wishing people an early happy Easter, but I will, Mr. Chair.
Nine 9/11, that's just too funny. A mover, please. Trustee Phelan, seconded by trustee Lukatich-Byers. That the regular board meeting of March 24, 2026 be adjourned at 9:11 p.m. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone.